Hello, I'm Mantastic and Fantastic, and today I'm going to be talking about the 8th Anniversary Festival Survey Reward Egg Machine that has just been released to North American players. So this was a voting event that occurred sometime in the past, and basically players were allowed to vote for their most desirable Pantheon monster from a certain list. The Samurai 3 Pantheon was excluded as well, but with that in mind, the top 5 cards were selected and will be available to pull from a special one-time gift egg machine. You only get one chance to pull. It's going to be completely free. You have no control over who you get, but at the same time, every single one of these Pantheon cards are meaningful and valuable at this point in time, and I want to take this opportunity to look at each of them in a little bit more detail to give you an idea of what you can expect or how to use these cards. So, as a general blanket statement, if you already have all of these cards and you pull a duplicate, one thing that you may wish to do is utilize a second one with a different set of Latent Awakenings. This is one thing that I feel that Pad does terribly, in that you cannot easily modify or change a card you already have. If you can't swap the Super Awakenings at leisure, you can't swap the Latents either. So for instance, if I only have one Douchan in my monster box, and if I were to roll a second Douchan here, I would definitely utilize the second one with a Jammer Surge Super Latent, because my first one has Poison Surge, which is used for like Alt Arena 4 and other things along that line. But for Sure Realm, I need to have Jammer Surge. But I don't want to waste a Jammer Surge on top of my Poison Surge and to lose that Poison Surge, because I still like having a Poison Surge resist. So again, if you do pull a duplicates, you might have that flexibility of changing up the Latent Awakenings. Either way, let's take a look at Alatu. So Alatu is the #1 most voted card, and in all honesty, that is not surprising. Alatu is incredibly stacked in so many different ways. From an Awakenings point of view, she has 4 skill boosts, super poison resist, 7 combos, and an L. And in addition to that, her active skill provides a 3-turn delay with a board change of fire, water, and dark. So you have 7 effective skill boosts and a tricolor board changer, which will always be helpful throughout a dungeon. The vast majority of teams nowadays don't need to have auto follow attack, or in Sure Realm, auto follow attack is not so necessary, so the absence of hearts is okay. And a tricolor board with your dark or water orbs, depending on the color of team she's used on, will be helpful because it's a way to actually kill a spawn. And in the case of Sure Realm, lots of things can be delayed. The Manoa, before she transforms on the second to last floor, is delayable. That will give yourself a much easier time because her execute range is quite large. So, in summary, she has 7 effective skill boosts, super poison, respectable personal damage, and an L Awakening. Just such a powerful all-around sub. It's great on mono dark, mono water teams even, especially those that wish to transform. So for those players who were fortunate enough to roll Yucks in the past Sin Dragon's Key Hero event, Alatu is one of the most important subs. Like, I can't really imagine not using Alatu. I have an Alatu. I would not take her away. She's just so powerful at this point in time. For my #2 most for the #2 most voted card for North America is Douchan. And Douchan, I feel, has possibly been the longest lasting sub in terms of relevancy. Because basically as soon as she was released however many years ago, she was relevant on top tier teams. Initially it was Anubis spamming, and then her low base cooldown and then eventually super blind resist with L's made her such a valuable sub, and those 4 skill boosts help with transforming. You can inherit an active skill over top of this 2-turn cooldown and do lots of wonderful things. And the active skill itself, if you use the base cooldown, is a time buff, which can override debuffs, and it clears 2 turns of Awoken skill binds. So it's a valuable active skill to use, but it's also great to use as an inheritance base. So Douchan has so much flexibility, and those 2 light resists you might think are kind of silly and wasteful, but in Sure Realm, there is a preemptive from Raphael for 150% gravity. So that amount of light damage reduction is meaningful because it can help you survive if your damage reduction is lower or you don't have any natural damage reduction, you're relying on latents. So it can make your life much easier. And as a general blanket statement for myself, if I cannot figure out what to put on a team, Douchan and Paulone tend to be my most default choices. I don't know what to put on a team, slap a Douchan on. It's never going to be a bad thing. You got super blind resist, you have L unlock, you have a useful base active, and a way to carry and inherit that is meaningful with 4 skill boosts. There is no real losing out on using Douchan. So as I mentioned before, if you only have 1 copy and you pull a second, you may want to have different Latent Awakenings because depends on the dungeon you are playing through. Inahime is #3, and Inahime boasts powerful machine killing prowess. They have 2 machine killers as natural awakenings. They can use 4 machine killer latents due to their reincarnated status, which is kind of like all the cards here, to be honest. But the idea with Inahi is that they become basically a mandatory sub to run on your Gillian teams if you're playing through Shura Realm. Inahi won't be used for non-Shura Realm, but they're used in Shura Realm because machine types are so common, but also because on floor 1 in Shura Realm, the blue spawn must die before it attacks you. And when you enter a dungeon with Gillian, your Gillians are not transformed. Your Grandis is not transformed. You have very little personal damage, and Inahi will basically be carrying you through that first floor. In addition to having the damage to possibly kill the blue spawn, their board changer also gives you fire orbs, which helps ensure that blue spawn dies. Or if you don't need to use this active skill for the blue spawn in the middle, you could use it on floor 3 if you manage to not transform Gillians before passing the first floor in Lucifer's combo test. Because the board is full dark, and only dark orbs can't be solved with Gillian. You might have issues if you get the guy who does the gravity preemptive as well. So the main idea is Inahi will solve your problems for floor 1 and 3 for Shura Realm. And after that, you still have another very hard-hitting machine-killing spawn with a super jam resist. So great and powerful card to have all around. And it's not surprising to see them included because many players are now starting to look at Shura Realm with all these key heroes available. For Tachibana, Tachibana provides 4 skill boosts, but you could argue it's 5 effective skill boosts if you use their base active skill because it has a 75% damage reduction component. Most things, you should be able to survive with 75% damage reduction. That's basically 4 times your health. Good chance you can. But in addition to that, you have Guard Break, so an extra amount of utility. You have 20% Blind and Jammer, so those can be comboed with Samurai 3 weapons to give you 100% resistance. And you have full Poison Resist due to this Super Poison Resist. Pretty helpful utility card all around. And she does have 8 latent slots, so you can inherit a super latent as well as killers or SDRs, whatever you need to have. But in addition to that, she has 3 typings, Physical, Attacker, and God, so she can be used across a different variety of teams compared to other Rainbow subs, but she will have lots of value for the future Mega Awoken Raijin who needs to use Attacker cards, and if you don't have many Attacker cards available, Tachibana will be a brilliant solution. And then finally, for number 5, we have Amaterasu. And Amaterasu is the oldest card of any of the top 5 winners, which is kind of surprising. You might think many people have Amaterasu, but at the same time, there are probably many players who have just started playing Pad and still have not picked her up. And the reason why Amaterasu is so valuable is because she is one of the best healing solutions available in the game. She has an amazingly high RCV stat of 1,359 at level 110. You can add pluses, you can add RCV latents, you get to a crazy high amount. And that crazy high amount is important because of those enhanced Heart Orb Awakenings. And with enhanced Heart Orb Awakenings, every time you match a 4 match of hearts, you receive a sizable boost in healing output. So this naturally has applications on any teams with high health, low base recovery. So at this point in time, she has a fire sub-attribute, which means she can be used on your Dante Remu teams or your Gillian teams, and all of those teams greatly benefit from having a healing solution. But Amaterasu isn't just slacking off. She's more than just a healing solution. She does provide 3 effective skill boosts because she has 2 skill boosts naturally, 1 skill boost of haste through her active skill. That active also gives you a 40% max heal, which can be helpful for Gillian. You can suddenly get above 50% and get your damage reduction back. You also can remove some binds and awoken binds. Useful. But at the same time, with an 8 turn based cooldown, you can inherit something over top of her. So for myself, I inherit my Fire Cursed Key because it provides a massive attack boost on floor 1 for Inahi to guarantee I kill that blue spawn right in the middle because that big boost. And the negative attack penalty means nothing to Amaterasu. She's just there for the RCV and her modestly high health as well. So you can inherit an active skill on top of it, gain additional effective skill boost because with that weapon assist, she now has a skill boost through another skill boost through Awakenings and 2 instead of 1 turn of haste. So she now became a 5 effective skill boost card. Very valuable overall. And at the same time, if we do get a mono light team that needs this type of healing solution, Amaterasu will naturally be well suited there. So with that being said, those were the 5 top voted cards, but here are a couple others that I thought could be possible honorable mentions. I feel like maybe these cards could have possibly been voted in, but maybe because they have less specific relevances for like Shura Realm teams. Basically, if you think about it, all these cards, kind of exception of Tachibana, are very relevant for Shura Realm at this point in time because Douchan can be used for Fair Rule or basically really any team. Amaterasu is for Mono Dark, Mono Water transforming, so yucks. Inahime's Gillian, Tachibana's future Mega Woken Raijin, Amaterasu's healing solution for many teams who tend to play through Shura Realm. And Indra is still a solid card. Indra, at least for my monster box, I actually have quite a weak rainbow monster box, but for Indra, I have great amounts of flexibility with them. They have 5 effective skill boosts because of 4+1 haste, but there's 75% damage reduction for 2 turns, kind of makes them 7 effective skill boosts. Like, it's going to be hard to kill you through 75% damage reduction. So you get massive amounts of skill boosts. You also have super poison resist and a large amount of health. So a nice bulky sub all around, pretty useful utility, but didn't get voted in. I can see why. It's not as maybe like specialized. They're like a pretty strong, generically helpful sub, but it's not something you need to have on a team kind of like Alattu. I feel like Alattu just fits roles a bit better. Same idea can be applied to Horus. Horus has a plethora of useful awakenings. They have 3 skill boosts, they have guard break, they have L, modest personal damage, and a 2-turn base cooldown, which can inherit something with haste or delay to make them much more effective overall. But at the same time, they're not super specialized in that sense. Like, Inahime is needed for Gillian teams. Amaterasu is as well. Pollen is pretty much another sub, and Grandis just the great damage solution. So there's not as much flexibility to squeeze Horus into teams like Gillian or Dante Remu, but at the same time, they're a great ranking dungeon solution, and I feel like because of their lack of like need to be placed on Shura Realm teams and a lot of their value coming in through ranking dungeons because of style points, it does lower their value, along with the fact that they're an incredibly old card. And then finally, I think No Hime could have possibly got in. She is a newer Pantheon card, but Tachibana has a similar archetype that is better because Tachibana gives super poison instead of super jammer. I think super poison tends to be a little bit more helpful in a vacuum, and at least with Tachibana, the attacker typing allows her to be utilized on Mega Woken Raijin teams. No Hime has very similar typings to Alattu and the same colors, and Alattu I feel is just a stronger sub as a whole, so No Hime gets pushed down a little bit because Alattu just does that job better. So, in conclusion, the top 5 most voted cards are all relevant. They all have a place in today's meta when you're playing through challenging endgame content, and as a whole, I'm quite happy of how it was done. The only perhaps downside is that it's only a gift roll. You don't actually have a separate egg machine to spend magic stones where you could potentially acquire all the useful Pantheon cards you were missing. But either way, let me know which card you actually voted for and did they actually appear in here, along with who you managed to roll from that gift mail. Regardless of all that, hopefully all the Mantastic day. I wish you all the best luck in your own pad adventures, and happy puzzling.